Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll visit 6 operations that have made conservation a priority as we highlight the 2016 winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award.
And now, a special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Protecting and improving the environment has long been the focus of America's foremost land stewards, farmers and ranchers. The 2016 Regional Environmental Stewardship Award winners are all dedicated to maintaining and improving their lands to ensure that they are productive for future generations. Today, we'll get an up-close look at each of our regional winners in 6 very different parts of the country. We begin with a visit to our Region 1 winner in Pennsylvania.
It's just after sunrise in the mountains of central Pennsylvania, and cows are grazing the sloping pastures at Huntingdon Farm, a 300-acre purebred Angus and hay operation.
We are 25 miles south of State College, where Penn State University is. And that's where I went to school. And I was mentored there by Professor Herman Purdy, who had an interest in getting a farm, and we bought it in 1970. Through the guidance of Professor Purdy, we had a show string. We were showing cattle on a regular basis and doing pretty well with that. After his passing, we changed gears and are producing registered Angus cattle.
John has always been passionate from day one when he envisioned this farm. And he always tells the story as he came down Loop Road and he saw this setting, that was going to be his life. And so he had a vision for the farm here in rehabilitating it, which he has done. And everything that he touches just evolves into something beautiful.
John Dawes has no trouble staying busy. An innovative Angus breeder, John is also co-author of the book Breeds of Cattle. And from his office at the farm, John serves as executive director of the Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds.
The Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds was established in 1994 by the Heinz Endowments in Pittsburgh. Now we distribute about $2 million a year in small grants for watershed improvement. We pay for rotational grazing system to be implemented. A lot of our work pertains to abandoned mine land.
John and Katie's passion for restoring and protecting their farm is clear. The home they live in dates to 1840, and they've relocated a historic cabin that is now a perfect place to share some of their best management practices with guests.
It's important that we let folks come here and see this farm as a demonstration of good things that can be done, and that it's something that everyone should pay attention to.
We built this cabin, which is a recycled building. It was moved from the southern part of the county, and had the desire, knowing people in the Green Building Alliance, to make it a green facility. We have a windmill for electricity supplementation, and then we have photovoltaic panels for well water extraction. And that goes up to a 2,000-gallon tank and then gravity feeds. So there's no money spent on water withdrawal.
John has worked with a long list of partners to accomplish conservation projects. One major challenge here is controlling water runoff. Emma Creek runs through the farm and ultimately drains to the Chesapeake Bay. So John has worked to restore wetlands and revitalize the banks of the creek.
We have stream bag fencing the whole length of the farm, which is good because, again, that helps with the erosion, and the stream crossings are built up with stone, so there's very little erosion going into the stream.
The water quality improvement is stunning because oftentimes that stream would run with sediments and be muddy. And to eliminate those hard use areas and to have constructed crossings has just been tremendous.
To help visitors understand the actions that have been taken, there is now informational signage on the farm to explain how these changes protect the natural resources. John and his farm manager, Bill Shoemaker, have also begun using an intensive rotational grazing system to promote healthy grass in their pastures.
And he has taken very small paddocks and fenced them with electric fence and moved them almost on a daily basis. Grass-wise, it's, of course you need rain, but I think there's better utilization of the forage.
Beyond the pastures, John and Katie have placed their forest lands in a permanent conservation reserve. This is working to protect shagbark hickory trees that are prime habitat for the endangered Indiana bat. At Huntington Farm, each decision is made with an eye toward maximum conservation rather than maximum production.
This is not a crop farm, and the best utilization for this slope and soil type is grazing.
And I think that that's something that John's in tune with too, is that not only are we doing the right thing for nature, but it's also the right thing to do for the bottom line of the business, and it also enhances the health of the herd too.
Together, John and Katie have spent much of their lives protecting their soil and water, improving their forests, and finding ways to raise high-quality cattle while making the least impact on the land.
I think the future of this farm would be to continue what we're doing with programs as well as the raising and breeding of our animals, and to keep it pristine as we can, to learn more about conservation.
I've always had a desire to live lightly on the earth and not be a resource consumer to the nth degree. And everything that we do, my desire is for sustainability.
One by one, we're featuring the regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Awards. And now, let's head to Region 3 and meet the winning family from Minnesota.
Stony Creek Farm in south central Minnesota is owned and operated by Grant and Dawn Breitkreitz. Their third-generation ranch is a rare sight in the land of 10,000 lakes, a forage-based operation deep in the heart of row crop country.
We run primarily a commercial red Angus herd with a little Angus in there too. We run between 120 and 150 stock cows. We run a spring and a fall calving herd.
Grant and I run the farm along with our daughter Carly, and we have various other family members that help us out along the way.
Grant and Dawn have implemented a rotational grazing program to increase their grass production. They started by splitting just one pasture in half to see how the cattle and grass would perform. This first trial was a success, and they were soon working with NRCS to subdivide all their grazing land.
We saw what was happening out here and how the grass was performing and how things were getting better and better, and so we started splitting it down even further. And that's when we started working with the NRCS office and working into more rotational grazing, and we started attending educational classes and seeking out other people that have been doing this for a lot longer time than we have.
So we're growing grass on our hills where we never used to grow grass more than 3 to 4 inches tall. We're growing grass that'll be waist high in June.
When I started with cattle with my parents, there were pastures that it looked like a lawn, and it was a very patchy lawn. You could see dirt everywhere. And since we started doing this, we can see a huge difference. The ground is so much richer and the grass is so much fuller. It's covering the ground. We don't see patches of dirt anymore.
Over the years, the Breitkreitzes have continued to make improvements to their pastures. 14 watering facilities have been added to support the rotational grazing plan and ensure the cattle have good, clean water at all times. These changes have also had a positive impact on the naturally occurring water sources around the operation. There's less runoff to the adjoining Minnesota River, and the streams on the property are cleaner and in better shape.
So when we started with the first rotational grazing system out here, we had severe riparian damage to our creek banks, our stream banks. We noticed immediately that they started to heal, and then when we got the water tanks installed farther away and gave our grass plenty of time to rest, our riparian areas are all healed, all covered with grass, just like the main part of the pasture.
We see very few, if any, areas where it's bare dirt. The grass has grown back up, and 9 times out of 10 when I go to the pasture creek, it's running clear, and that makes us happy. And that makes the cattle happy too.
Cattle at Stony Creek Farm also spend time grazing on public land through an agreement with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. This gives Stony Creek additional pasture land while helping the state manage the health of their land.
We know how we can manage our land, which is the same as theirs with the cattle, and I'd really like to see them manage their land more with the cattle. Most of the land management in this area done by the DNR is done with fire. We've made it very clear that our cows don't care if it's windy or raining, they're still out there managing that land.
If Grant and Dawn weren't here to work with us on doing this, it'd make our job, if not impossible, certainly a lot more expensive. If everybody in my work area farmed like Grant and Dawn, our water quality and wildlife problems would probably be done real quick.
The Breitkreitzes admit they stumbled onto one of their practices almost by accident. They began planting cover crops as a means of creating additional forage, but quickly realized the all-around benefits.
We didn't really know what cover crops were. We were just using them to produce more feed for the cattle, and all of a sudden the light bulbs started coming on. We were seeing less problems in the fields with weeds and insects, and so we just won't go without planting a cover crop now.
Last year we did a cover crop that I think had 15 different species in there, and we ran our cows out there and they loved it. It was the most weight gain I've seen on cows in such a short period of time, and they kept it on all winter, and our cows just loved it. They'd go out there just happy as could be, and they'd come back in just happy as could be.
The gates at Stony Creek Farm are always open to people that want to learn more about stewardship, including other cattle producers who are looking to improve their conservation practices. The Breitkreitz family knows their efforts will ensure Stony Creek Farm is around for generations to come.
Hopefully by doing what we're doing with the stewardship here, there will be something here for Carly if she wants, or other generations coming along, just because we've maintained the integrity of the soil, the land, the water. So hopefully the next generation's got a good chance and a good start.
Watching my dad learn about this rotational grazing and like the mob grazing and what we can do to better our environment, he is passionate about creating something that's going to last. And I've become very passionate about creating something that's going to go on to benefit our next generations. And I think that's extremely important.
It's just been incredible all over the farm. This is what God gave us. Let's take the best care of it we can, and that's what we're trying to do.
These Environmental Stewardship Award winners are helping make a difference in the environment every day. To join them as a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF, or you can visit the website beefusa.org. Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll take you to a historic Texas ranch which has been owned by the same family for more than a century. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you know all you need to about working cattle? Did you know there are proven methods that can reduce stress for the animals, for you, and for your crew? Learn from the experts who can help sharpen your stockmanship and stewardship skills. By attending a stockmanship and stewardship event, you'll learn proven ways to work cattle more efficiently, skills that can help put more money in your pocket. Find out more and locate a training session near you at the website stockmanshipandstewardship.org.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Graze On Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
Welcome back. When it comes to environmental stewardship, there are all kinds of challenges cattle producers face as they work to care for the land and to leave a legacy for future generations. With every one of these operations we visit, there's a common theme: the goal of leaving the land better than they found it. We now visit the Region 4 award recipients from Texas.
In the Texas Panhandle, the Turkey Track Ranch covers nearly 76,000 acres. From sub-irrigated meadows to caprock country, this widely varied landscape has been owned by the Coble and Wittenberg family since 1916. Today, the ranch is managed by Jay O'Brien and Dale Smith of the Adobe Walls Cattle Company.
It's still in the Wittenberg family, and they're actively involved with the stewardship part of the ranch and making sure that it addresses the needs of wildlife as well as cattle.
We manage it like we're going to own it for 100 years, but then we respect that we're just the lessees, we're just the caretakers here at the time, and that we want to leave the ranch in better condition than when we started in 2009.
The work of Jay, Dale, and their crew on the ranch does not go unnoticed. The Turkey Track Ranch sees a steady stream of visitors because it includes the Adobe Walls National Monument, a historic battle site donated by the ranch owners long ago.
This particular parcel is the battle site for the Second Battle of Adobe Walls, June 27, 1874. This area was given to the museum in 1924, even before the museum was open, and we've maintained it in cooperation with the Turkey Tracks ever since. I've been coming out here for 29 years and always admired how well things are maintained on the Turkey Track.
The Turkey Track Ranch grazes both cow-calf and yearling stocker cattle. Dale and Jay keep a sharp eye on stocking rates and use a system of rest rotation grazing. This approach allows for a rapid response when drought hits.
What I'd say we've brought to the table is grass management to improve the types of grasses and the health of the grasses of the ranch. And the proudest thing to me is that we survived the 11 through 13 drought without selling any cows.
Out of 10 years, we'll have 2 to 3 sure enough dry years. And so in our management scheme, we always have to be preparing for the next drought by being very conservative in our stocking rates. If it does turn dry, we will start shipping stocker cattle sooner than later, and that'll allow the grass to recover sufficiently and establish a good root zone where when we do get rains, the grasses are in excellent shape to be able to take advantage of that.
I've spent 38 years working with the NRCS, and in my opinion, Dale is by far one of the most conscientious rangeland stewards I've ever worked with. His management's fantastic. They're always concerned with sustainability of the range resource, so that's what stands out.
Beyond drought, water is another challenge. The ranch has check dams and several large reservoirs to capture water and prevent erosion. And a full inventory of grazing resources on the ranch showed areas where additional water was needed to allow the cattle to graze more acres.
Using that map helped us to identify areas that we were underutilizing because of the lack of water. So we have gone in and we've drilled several wells, we've installed several miles of pipeline, we've installed lots of tubs, and we've worked with the NRCS through the EQIP program, and they helped us provide cost share funds to be able to do that.
Another battle is against brush. The ranch team is working to take out the invasive Russian olive to allow native grasses and forbs to thrive. Dale has also worked with NRCS to routinely capture accurate data on forage production and plant diversity.
We have 8x8 enclosures that the cattle are excluded from grazing, and every year we will take a meter square and we clip all the forage within that meter square, and then we use a formula that extracts to give us the number of pounds per acre that's been produced for that given year. So that's what we use the grazing enclosures for. And also, and probably maybe even more importantly, those grazing enclosures, they kind of they help set your eye of how much use you've had, how much the cattle have grazed the pasture.
The 200-foot transect, that allows us to monitor plant community composition. I'm talking about grasses, forbs, bare ground, and then we use the same transect to monitor brush canopy changes over time. So this is an invaluable tool for monitoring the management decisions to see whether you're improving or going the opposite direction.
On the Turkey Track Ranch, cattle have shared the ranch land with a variety of wildlife for more than 100 years now. In that time, the goal of care for the land and stewardship for the future has grown stronger.
We're constantly evaluating our actions and how they affect the rangeland, how they affect the wildlife, how they affect the cattle, how they affect our bottom line, because we have to be able to produce a sustainable profit to be in business. It's never going to be as it is today. It's either going to get worse or it's going to get better. And we're going to work hard to make sure that the range conditions are trending better over a long-term basis, and that the relationship with the family is trending better over a long-term basis, and that we are steadily improving the ranch through smart capital investments.
If the goal is to produce a sustainable profit while improving the asset, and that's our mission statement, obviously that's my hope for the turkey track, and that we'll be able to continue doing that so that cattle will continue turning grass into protein.
If you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award next year, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. We'll be right back.
Forward. It's more than a direction. It's mandatory, because the beef business rewards the progressive, the doers, the ones who know what it takes to go easy on cattle and never set them back. So set your eyes on the horizon, turn your back to the wind, and move your herd the only way you know. Forward. Vista Vaccines. Always ahead.
Long live the courageous, the tenacious, the ones who push forward and give back. Long live the greater good, the helping hand, and long live the truck built to outlast them all. Ram, America's longest lasting pickups.
Welcome back as we continue our look at the 6 Environmental Stewardship Regional Award winners for 2016. Now, each of these families face their own unique challenges based on things like geography and the weather, but they all share a desire to leave the land in better shape for future generations while also inspiring the next generation of land stewards. Let's head to Region 5 and the winning operation in Montana.
In eastern Montana, Cherry Creek Ranch is a commercial cow-calf operation stretching across nearly 25,000 acres of both owned and public lands. Lon and Vicki Rukoff's family has deep roots in this area. Although this part of Montana used to be packed with homesteaders, the Rukoffs are one of the few original families still around.
There's about 5 original families left here out of probably 250 homesteaders that began in that period from about 1900 to about 1916.
For 3 generations, we wake up every morning with the intention to get out of bed and have great intentions to improving the land and the landscape for our cattle, and always putting their needs ahead of our own.
Cherry Creek Ranch only gets about 12.5 inches of precipitation a year, so capturing any moisture they do get is a priority. One way Lon does that is with a rotational grazing system to help improve water infiltration into the soil.
We felt that by having cattle on land for less time and giving it longer rest periods, we accomplished an increase in both species diversity and grass production, and especially root depth on the plants that existed. And I think it increases your water holding capacity in your soil. And also having significant litter and good root mass in the ground makes the plants more efficiently utilize the moisture that you've got.
During our 33 years of marriage, we kind of suffered along through about
15 years of drought off and on. And so we don't take for granted, really taking care of the land so it takes care of us and for future generations.
Water placement is another key to the success of the Cherry Creek grazing system. The Rukoffs have installed solar-powered wells in strategic locations to provide the cattle with clean, fresh, consistent water. These tanks also help to pull animals away from lower riparian areas.
I think that putting this water in less sensitive areas is one of the single best factors in having a lot of species biodiversity in our plant community, because we're now focusing a lot of the time those animals spent in very sensitive areas, we're shifting that to very unsensitive areas. We found that by utilizing solar well technology, we were able to push water to places that we couldn't get it before.
Always eager to share their passion for the land with others, Lon and Vicki have long encouraged public access to their land for hunting. Their ranch lands are part of a Montana block management program that gives hunters nearly unlimited open access.
We want to make sure we keep that resource available for other people that live in town that don't get a chance to go out and enjoy the outdoors and nature.
We've seen a pretty good increase in wildlife numbers as a whole in this area, and a lot of that has to do with the management practices Lon and Vicki have implemented on the ranch.
For Lon, planting trees is another passion, and over the past 20 years, the Rukoffs have transformed their landscape by planting trees every year, providing livestock and wildlife improved opportunities for shade and shelter.
Every year Lon would order maybe 50 to 300 trees, and we never knew for sure when they were coming, but it was usually during cool, rainy weather, and we'd hear, oh, here's the UPS truck with the trees, and we'd be out planting 50 to 300 trees that day, because we just have a few days to get them in the ground. Hand planting with shovels in the mud from the time our kids were this high.
We don't necessarily plant trees to revegetate the whole landscape. We plant those trees, shrubs, to make sure that the seed source is always available in places. And hopefully, if the seed source is present, we can find methods of our rotational grazing that will allow all those plants to flourish.
It's hard to come out here and not leave with that feeling of this land is much more important to them than just a way to make money. It's a way of life for them.
Over the years, the men in the Rukoff family have been avid recorders of history. Grandfather Art wrote a book about the hardships of the homesteading era, while Lon's dad, Walter, kept diaries of the daily ranch work. It's a practice Lon continues today.
I don't keep quite the personal diary that my father did, but I usually write in it every day. I record cattle movements. I keep pretty close track of precipitation and maybe large weather events, hailstorms, blizzards.
Lon and Vicki have a son and daughter who both work jobs off the ranch, but they hope one of them will return home to manage the operation. One thing is certain, proper care of the land and the cattle will always be a way of life on Cherry Creek Ranch.
I guess it's like learning a behavior over 40 or 50 years. It becomes second nature, and it would feel very uncomfortable not to do that.
There's never an end to improving the land, and so we always have ideas for new water sources, for different ways we can manage the grasslands better and be able to survive difficult times. We enjoy doing it, and we just couldn't imagine doing it any other way.
Help NCBA members improve the sustainability of this great industry by becoming a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Just give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit the website beefusa.org. We'll be back with more right after this.
What does it mean to be an American cattleman? It means you have what it takes where it counts, on the inside. At Ritchie, we understand that. It's what's on the inside that defines us. We share the same values: ingenuity, commitment, sense of pride. These are the values that built this country. They're the values that built this company, Ritchie. proud to be a partner to the American Cattlemen since 1921.
No matter what job I've got to do, my John Deere 5E tractor can do it all. Whether I'm cutting, moving feed, or building a fence. Using my 5E means my work gets done faster at a price I can afford, and that works for me.
You're watching NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV.
Welcome back. Every day, cattlemen and women care for their land and their animals. They do so because they're committed to leaving what they have better than they found it. We're featuring the 2016 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's take you to Nevada to see the Region 6 winner.
In the high desert country of central Nevada, the cowboy crew on Smith Creek Ranch is pushing cattle to the uplands. The ranch was purchased by the Hendricks family in 1994 with the idea of improving a property that had been overgrazed.
You want to leave it better than the way you found it. And so that's what we've tried to do here, to have the respect of this land. I guess you learn to work with the environment around you, and so you've got to take care of it.
The Hendricks family have a tremendous value for the land, and to see that land flourish and become even more productive, but not just for livestock, but for everything that exists on the sagebrush landscape.
From a cow standpoint, this is kind of a tough part of the country to make a living in. I think central Nevada, if we can do grazing and cows sustainably in central Nevada, we can do it just about anywhere.
Dwayne Coombs was the manager here for nearly 18 years. Now Sam Lossing, who worked alongside Dwayne for many years, has taken the reins. As it is in most of Nevada, this is a public lands ranch with only about 3,000 acres owned and more than 225,000 acres of permitted grazing on BLM allotments.
So one of the neat things about our relationship with the BLM and the trust that Dwayne has built over the years is that in this past 4 years of drought, it's been critical to recognize before the BLM mandates it that we needed to cut back our cow numbers. So we voluntarily reduced our herd from about 900 to about 700, just in the interest of keeping the land healthy and keeping the rangelands from suffering.
I know and talk to all of the permittees that we work with. Just having an example like the Smith Creek Ranch to be able to show what it can be like is pretty valuable.
Smith Creek Ranch has always been on the cutting edge of environmental stewardship. They are open to partnerships with really diverse entities. They really work hard to partner to solve problems, and they're not afraid to step out of the box.
Innovative partnerships have worked to improve the watersheds on the ranch. Man-made dams were put on Smith Creek to slow the flow of the water, and cattle management has helped restore trees and health to the stream banks.
The riparian areas here at Smith Creek Ranch, when I first came, were a little tough, and I am just tickled pink with the progress that we've made. And more than that, I'm just tickled pink that we have been able to do this while we graze cows.
It's important to manage the cattle in those riparian areas because it's the area that is most sensitive to overgrazing and most easily overgrazed. And so one of the things we spend a lot of time doing is pushing those cows out of the riparian areas up into the uplands and settling them there.
Sam and Dwayne have spent years working to improve habitat for wildlife, including threatened species such as the sage grouse. That goal requires taking out invasive juniper and pinyon trees that have overrun the landscape.
I think the biggest thing is the ranch has gone out and cut trees for sage grouse habitat. And they've been able to do it on public land in conjunction with the BLM. And I think that's a really win-win situation.
You know, what's good for one is good for the other. And so if we can use sage grouse to improve cow habitat or cows to improve sage grouse habitat, you know, we're all after the same thing.
Another major project on Smith Creek Ranch is in Porter Canyon, where researchers have established the only fully instrumented watershed measuring the impact of juniper and pinyon trees on the landscape.
This whole project here in Porter Canyon with Smith Creek Ranch started with Dwayne and University of Nevada, Reno. So our research here, one of the things we are looking at is how pinyon and juniper use water, how they impact the understory, and whether or not removal of pinyon and juniper can restore the forage and wildlife habitat in this ecosystem.
Beyond stewardship, the ranch team is also preserving history. One building is an original Pony Express station, and their horses are saddled each day in the barn that was once used for the Overland Stagecoach. Whether moving cattle or fostering partnerships, the team at Smith Creek Ranch is working every day to ensure this land is preserved for the future.
We can never own land. We only borrow it from our children. That's stewardship.
My ultimate hope is that when someone comes to Smith Creek Ranch, they'll be able to look across this landscape and see that someone managed, someone cared about this land and making it better.
So we feel fortunate to have men like this who love God and love their family and love this country and have given us a better environment. It's a great blessing to us all for that.
Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit our YouTube page. You'll find replays of all of our shows filled with educational segments and producer profiles from around our country. It's also another chance to catch Baxter Black. So check us out at youtube.com/Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We'll be back with more right after this.
Want more profit out of your pasture? Then here's our 2 cents on using parasite control to make some dollars. In a trial of calves, Long Range outperformed Sidectin and Safeguard dewormers combined by as much as an extra 40 pounds. Yeah, that's a lot of extra profit, and that's why it pays to treat cattle with Long Range. Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You can't afford another season without Long Range.
Stay Tough fence will last 3 times longer and is 4 times stronger than low tensile fencing. High tensile wire, solid vertical stays, and tight fixed knots all provide superior strength. You will use fewer posts, saving time, labor, and money. Protect your investment for generations with Stay Tough fence. Stay strong, stay tight, stay tough.
Welcome back. We're bringing you some great stories about conservation as we highlight the 2016 Environmental Stewardship Award winners. Now, let's visit North Dakota for the Region 7 winner.
For more than 130 years, the Doan family has been raising cattle in this part of North Dakota. In fact, Blackleg Ranch has been around longer than the state they call home.
My great-grandfather came down out of Canada in 1880, which was then Dakota Territory, and then in 1882 he homesteaded here. My grandfather brought the first Angus cows to southern Burleigh County here in North Dakota in 1930, and it was predominantly Hereford country, and people hated those black cattle, and it kind of started as a joke, those black-legged SOBs. And my grandfather was just enough of a character, he named it that.
The Doan family runs about 600 head of commercial cattle and custom grazes an additional 2,400. Jerry and his wife Renee are the 4th generation to operate Blackleg Ranch, while their kids and their families represent the 5th and 6th generations. Supporting additional people required creative thinking, and the Doans have expanded into ventures beyond the livestock business.
Our main bread and butter is still the cow herd and cattle business, and and it probably always will be. But as we add other members of the family, we've got to find niches and diversity to make this successful.
We have had to since diversify, and which is what you see here, where you've got the hunting, you've got the weddings, the corporate events, of course the cattle, and all the other things that we do. And so that's kind of neat, and something that's not very common.
The Doans have placed an emphasis on soil health to help boost the land's productivity and generate more income. They use an intensive grazing management system which increases the rest and recovery periods of their pastures.
When Lewis and Clark were here, this was vast prairies of abundant grassland, and the buffalo basically did what we're trying to do with intensive grazing. They came through with hundreds of thousands of head, and they kind of annihilated the land, but they didn't come back for a year or two, and that's basically what we're trying to mimic.
We can put more pounds per acre on our land. When my dad was little, he said that this land, it was fun to dirt bike on because there was sand dunes everywhere. And now with our improved grazing methods, we're able to cover that ground, and our soil health has gone up immensely.
The Doans have worked with numerous agencies on projects to improve the condition of the land. That includes installing about 65 miles of cross fencing to help divide their pastures for grazing.
We have put in a lot of fence lines to make smaller paddocks, and then we move the cattle every 1 to 7 days depending on the weather and how many cattle we have in it.
Every year, we put up miles and miles of fence, but it's all for the better welfare of the animal. That's why we do it, and we'll continue to do it year after year.
Another key to a successful grazing system is access to water. The Doans have installed 6 wells and more than 16 miles of pipeline to ensure fresh water sources in each paddock.
Good fresh water is good for performance. It also helps us move the cattle into areas that they wouldn't necessarily graze before.
Now they're just coming up to drink and going back to graze. So it's eliminated a lot of, pretty much the cow trails, different things like that kind of eroded the land.
All of these stewardship efforts have the added benefit of enhancing the wildlife habitat on the Blackleg Ranch.
After our cattle graze an area, you'll come back later on in a month or so, and that grass is already regrown to where there's nesting happening. Wildlife are feeding off of it. The grass is vibrant again. The seeds are there for nutrition. It's truly amazing.
The wildlife is very abundant here. Managing our soil and our grass not only helps the cattle, but it helps the wildlife too.
To have someone that's innovative like that and adaptive like that, it really is inspiring to those of us in the conservation community. And I think that type of openness to innovation is why they've been so successful.
At Blackleg Ranch, they have a deep appreciation for their long history. But the Doan family is always thinking ahead to future generations that will one day live and work on this land.
We're leaving a legacy, and I feel this ranch is bigger than all of us, and our rich history and tradition is bigger than us.
My dad always says that he wants this place to leave his hands in better condition than when he got it. And so as we come up, I feel that that's a very good motto to live by when we hand it over to the next generation.
We would like to see this continue and stay together for our kids and their kids and future generations to enjoy.
There's going to be a lot of changes probably, 10 years from now that we don't even imagine today what could happen. So that's what makes it fun. It's new ideas we're able to try and, capture.
We want to make sure that the ranch is sustainable and it's in a better position than when we obtained it so that it can go on for generations.
I do want stewardship to not just stay the same, I want it to improve. I think there's tons more we can do. We're not near where I want to be yet, and I probably won't ever be to that level. I just want to keep pulling up that hill. We've got plenty to do yet, but it's moving in the right direction.
Ranchers in North Dakota and all across the United States are making a difference and protecting the environment. You can see their stories again and learn how to nominate someone for the award next year by visiting the website environmentalstewardship.org. Up next, it's time once again for our good friend Baxter Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Blaze a trail to Phoenix, Arizona and the 2018 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. It's the cattle industry's biggest convention with education, networking, and fun. Plus, you can check out the huge NCBA Trade Show, outstanding entertainment, and more. Don't miss the 2018 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Phoenix, January 31st through February 2nd. Visit beefusa.org for more.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
If your group or association is planning a meeting and are on a thrifty budget, check out Virtual Video Baxter. That's me. I'll video a personalized welcome, then furnish several humorous stories to run between your speakers. Signbooks can be used as auction items. We've done rodeos, museums, bull sales, the Conservation Service. Use your imagination. Give us a call, 800-654-2550 at baxterblack.com.
At the convenience store, I poured a 20-ounce styrofoam cup half full of coffee. Then I put it under the cappuccino chemical flavor dispenser and dribbled in French magnesium vanilla, hot cobalt chocolate, and hazelnut ammonium hydroxide. Then I took amaretto chloride and mentholated mint and splashed their contents into the ever-filling 20-ounce cup. All the while I was preparing my cauldron concoction, my taste buds were leaping in a bud frenzy, doing gumdrop cartwheels and encouraging my salivary glands to wet their pants. Toxic coffee, an exquisite potion. With my admitted weakness for such an unnatural beverage, you would think that I would have some understanding of my children's love for Pop-Tarts, with their filling like gritty tar on hot pavement, and a hard dough reminiscent of unleavened bread. Usually eaten unheated, it is a cardboard and jelly sandwich. Or how about dried cereal bits formed in the shape of clover leaves or letters or hatchets or pinto beans, bat eyes or squirrel testicles, dyed algae green or hemoglobin orange, and then rolled in powdered cinnamon, baby talc, or graphite. Not to mention genetic manipulation, which has given us tennis ball tomatoes that would not break on the bat of Sammy Sosa, bright red, and taste more like carpet fiber than tomatoes. Mexican mutant strawberries as flavorless as poi. It's what we've done to chicken, so we can roll it in carbo dust, deep fry it, and addict our kids. But I digress. The ultimate toxic invention, a fruit roll-up, a flattened, sticky, hanky-sized sheet of goo. It reminds me of a frog's tongue on the roof of an octopus mouth, but kids love it. So be it. Right now, I'm sipping coffee made from fresh ground Costa Rican beans in a china cup with real cream. And I'm wishing it had a big squirt of pecan caramel caustic cappuccino with a pH of 2. Probably not a good idea, though. Might take the enamel right off the cup. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We always enjoy your stories. We'll have more when we return.
I'm an NCBA member because NCBA, they look at the facts, they look at the history, and they look what's good for the industry.
It's important to be NCBA members just because of what NCBA does. They keep us informed about a lot of things that are going on nationwide.
The reason we're an NCBA member is we think that it's the best voice that the cattle people have.
Join NCBA today. Head to beefusa.org or call 866-USA-BEEF.
Welcome back. For this week's Legacy Photos, we take one more look at some of the beautiful images on our Environmental Stewardship Award-winning ranches. Now, don't forget, you can send us your own legacy photos by visiting our website, cattlemen-to-cattlemen.org. Include your ranch or farm name and your hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that's all for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.